Venture X card from Capital One gives you premium travel benefits, perfect for seeing Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. Presented by Capital One. Oh, I do love her. Earn 5 times miles on flights and 10 times miles on hotels through Capital One Travel.
Enjoy your stay in Suite 13.
Whoa, 13? That's Taylor's lucky number. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help. Or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And a special offer to Immaletyoufinish listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/Immaletyu, IMMALETU. That's better, HELP.com/Immaletyu, IMMALETU. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this podcast.
Like polio in the New York wastewater. We're back. I'm gonna let you finish.
Okay. Can I tell you? Let me just give you a heads up. I usually start the show with a lozenge in my mouth, so I don't have to have water. So unless you can,
I'm gonna switch it up and get you a different point.
I'm saying, unless you're like John Mulaney and Stefan changing the joke. Unless you can do the Heimlich maneuver from Harlem to Brooklyn, don't let me die. I haven't trained the cats how to give mouth to cat resuscitation or cat to mouth.
Okay, kids, I'm gonna let you finish show number 111. We're 111. We're one of those Make-A-Wish numbers. It's a lot of ones. It's a lot of ones.
Okay, now I'm dying. This is your goal. All right, this is the show where Amy died on air.
The ratings are huge. They'll be like, well, what happens? Were you there? Yes. I'll be like, I was there. I said a joke.
Really? And I looked at her, she croaked.
They're like, did you call 911? I was like, well, after. The ratings were just going to be too big.
Too big.
We're on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
The number one music network music podcast network in the world.
Yes, we are.
And we're here.
We may not free convicted murderers, but we have really good taste in music.
We are the cult band of our network.
We are. We're the opening act that tried.
You know what I'm saying? We're the actually opening act that people didn't know what that was, and then they stayed for it and be like, oh, I like them. Then they started buying the albums.
You know, not for nothing. Mm-hmm. When the Buzzcocks toured the first time in the United States, and all us little punk rockers were like, "Ooh, Buzzcocks, we can't wait!" And Gang of Four was the opening act. And I'm telling you, I don't even remember the Buzzcocks. All I remember is Gang of Four, and the Buzzcocks were great.
That's the thing. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm famously the person. Music industry, right? So what time does the artist, the main show, go on stage? But I have definitely caught opening acts and seen people who I'm like, oh, and then you see them a few years later and it's like, right, you're the shit.
Or you catch opening acts that you should, like ESG, where you suddenly have those guys.
Wait a minute.
I'm never going to let you forget that.
And I shouldn't, because even when I said that to Bill, he looked at me like I had 12 heads. I know all of those records, but that was such a time when it was like Salsa Orchestra, right? Salsa Orchestra had a rotating cast of like maybe 30-something people.
Exactly.
On different records. So I knew Moody and a bunch of those other records, but I thought that, again, that was that period of a lot of producers and singers.
You thought it was session people.
Yeah, I never realized that the whole story of them being the sisters from the Bronx. So, and even though this wasn't all of the original ones, when they started doing the music, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And I was like,
they're a group.
Okay. Yeah. Really. They're not the Archies?
This is not just a 12-inch that I have.
Right,
wait a minute.
They have a whole fucking catalog.
And Bill was like, I A&R the album. I was like, wait a minute.
I know.
Hold on.
All right. I know.
That was such a good discovery. That was. Good. I'm glad. That one, I will say.
All right.
I feel like I know a lot of shit about music. That one fucking gagged me. Like,
if
oh my
all
God,
goes right, and let's not jinx it, we will have something very special to talk about next week.
Oh, we can say it because we have the tickets. We're going to see Pet Shop Boys on.
Well, I don't have my tickets yet.
Right,
you have your tickets.
Why don't you have your tickets?
Well, because mine are on hold until I hopefully get press tickets, but. Right. I will say this, Courtney. I just want to say this just to show if ever you doubt my affection for you. Mm-hmm. I thought there were 4 extra tickets. It turned out to be 2. I had given him 2 names. I went, give him the Courtney because he literally fainted when I told him. He literally fainted on the floor.
I did faint on the floor.
He did. He had a heart attack.
I've never seen them. And you've seen them like 4 times, which when you looked at me and you were like, all the people you've seen, never seen Pet Shop Boys? And I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible?
It's the same way it's I mean, we've had this. How is it possible I've never seen Beyonce? How is it possible? That
one's still to me. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, let's not get into it. Let's not start with negative.
How have you never seen Beyonce? I just need you. There's been 96 tours that have come. She played 5 times right down the block from your house. Literally.
And to add insult to injury, I was walking home from somewhere and saw somebody that works with her outside of the venue. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, wow, what are you doing here? And he goes, oh, you have to come tonight. I'll ask somebody and we'll give you a call. Nothing. It's okay. Life goes on. I want to see Little Amal. That's what I want to say. Little Amal was right down the street from me yesterday and I didn't even know it.
Oh, really? Yeah, where at?
I didn't. She was at BAM. I saw some guy walking up the street with a laminate that said Little Amal. I'm like, Little Amal's here, Little Amal's here. And then I went home and it rained and there she was, we're talking about the giant puppet that represents Syrian refugees. For those who would think we're talking about like some new grime
Was it outside?
Yeah, she's touring everywhere.
And you didn't go outside?
I didn't know. It's at BAM. I mean, I have a terrace, but I can't look 100 blocks away.
Right.
Anyway, let's talk about something. I don't know if everybody heard this. The Queen of England died. Did you hear about this?
She might have gone to glory.
I heard about this.
Yeah, I think.
I mean, they should have gotten more press coverage. I think it's really embarrassing. I think it's a absolute scandal that a woman who was a world leader for 70 years and has spawned more biopics and a television show than anybody else I can think of off the top of my head, that nothing was done. And I just think the American press really needs to take a look at itself and wonder why they were not covering every fucking iota of everything.
Let me just tell you something. The most interesting thing that I saw that was my biggest takeaway.
Okay, I have to just really quickly say it's very sad. She seemed like a nice person. Whether the monarchy is important, we can all agree the monarchy is stupid, but she seemed like a good person. There. I don't want royalists calling me up and going, you hate the queen.
It was the day she died. And I caught a couple of interesting things. I actually saw I don't really watch news channels anymore. And when I do, I kind of poke my head in and see what's on MSNBC. Sometimes. I'll even look at Fox, see what are they saying? CNN sometimes, not as much. But I turned on CNN that day because everybody knows CNN is absolutely the best when it comes to disaster porn, right? Let something crash, let someone die, let something blow up. And honey,
they're out there. They're out there.
Everyone is there. they've got their finger on that breaking news button. It
Yep.
just goes for 5 weeks, ain't nothing breaking.
Yep.
You're like, does something else break? And they get me every time.
What else is breaking?
So
They're breaking.
but what else is breaking? They're like, the next thing is like, a car went through the gate. We don't know who's in it, but it was a car. And they make that into the most important story for the next hour. Very first person I saw them stop and ask was that young lady, that clip that everybody saw go viral when she was like, yeah, it's sad like it is when anybody passes away. But, you know, the British monarchy had a big hand in colonialism, and she brought that up. And to watch, he let her finish her full statement, and then they went to commercial because they were, you know, they're all giving, we're sad, and she was giving, well, here comes the truth. I found it really interesting how that came up immediately. And the first person it came up from not a woman of color. She was white and young.
Right.
I thought that was really interesting. And they came back. They had a split screen of how it was being reported from their reporters around the world. There was London. No, I'm sorry. There was Australia.
I know.
There was India. And then there was Africa. Now,
not Canada.
Canada wasn't there yet. Because this was just, you know, she had just died. So now we're pulling who are the first ones we can find, who are ready, camera, let's go. Because, you know, it's different times there. At India, they were polite. And they were like, you know, it was polite. Australia was polite, but they were like saying there are some Republicans there being like, it's time to get rid of the monarchy. Then they got to Africa. And it was very interesting how there's such a different real history of Africa and the monarchy and the British.
Right.
And
no, for
that
sure.
response was very much like, we're not upset. You know, it was something said to the fact of may their ancestors all be together, almost like having this really burn in hell moment because of the things that the British monarchy and the British did on the continent of Africa that people don't forget. Then I started seeing the debate of people being like, you know, she was a great woman. Listen, I was into the Queen. I think she probably was a great woman. But I found it interesting that when people die, that everybody does think you can't talk about the whole person or just an institution as something that somebody represents. And she was the Queen. She represented that monarchy. Some will say great. Others, you know, who don't care about the monarchy have a different opinion. 70 years. And interestingly enough, immediately a lot of the things you saw all of the people across TV having to deal with was this idea of colonialization and some of the countries immediately wanting their jewels back. So I just found that it was an end of an era, right? Because for my lifetime and your lifetime, all I've ever known
pretty much everyone's lifetime,
is Queen Elizabeth.
Right.
You know, I wasn't around for her dad. So what does that mean for the monarchy with all of these issues of colonialization coming up? I'm wondering if a bunch of countries are going to start doing like Barbados did and being like, you know what? Jacinda Ardern was on in an interview this weekend saying she feels like in her lifetime, New Zealand will be an independent republic. So you could see the stage is set. Like it was like a respect for Elizabeth, but now that that's gone, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from there.
And it's sad. I just thought the coverage was like enough already. Like I don't need to see them walking down the street. The service itself, from a standpoint of like the pomp and the circumstance, and nobody does this like the Brits. I mean, they nailed this.
No one does it like
they could give TED Talks on the whole thing, right? But you know, after a while, and it's like, I don't know, there was like a fucking Cat 3 hurricane that just wiped out part of the United States.
Right.
But I understand why they did it, but it was like enough already. And yeah, I think a lot of them are going to withdraw because let's face it, King Charles does not charisma. He does not have.
No.
Yeah. So I think it'll be, it's sad. You know, they've stopped production on The Crown for a while. So that's a drag. Anyway, speaking of queens, Kanye, what the fuck?
I can't. Listen. And here's the thing. There are times I want to agree, but I'm like, if, first of all, if they're saying that you just stop approving stuff, you have to.
Well, he has a lawsuit. He has a lawsuit
Yeah.
going against the Gap, right? He has that.
He's dropping out. He was out of both his
Everything.
Gap and his Yeezy connects. But remember, he did the same thing with Nike. Remember, Yeezy
Right, with Nike,
Yeezy was originally with Nike, and that came to an end. It just feels like if you want. When I hear him saying, I just want to sell these shirts for $20 and for the people with the Gap, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, then do it yourself. Because I know that every time you've sold something, the prices have not been $20.
Not at all.
So you can figure out a way to manufacture and do direct to consumer and sell them yourself. But you also are working with corporations. And I don't know if you say things like, they sold mine for $200, then they ripped off my design and sold it under their brand for $20. I get that too, but who owns the intellectual property when you do these things, right? Because it's a collaboration. It's like maybe you own the name and you own your brand, but what's created under this collaboration, I know that those companies usually own the intellectual property to them.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to be a good business person, and you can't not respond. And if they design things you don't like, you have to. Then you reject them and make them go back and work on them. But if you stop communicating, people have a schedule and they're just going to release shit without you. That's just business. They'll take someone's album and release it without them. That's corporation shit. You get in bed with corporations, don't expect them to be your friend.
Listen, if he were a woman, he would have never gotten another. I understand that people buy his stupid stuff, and it's like a T-shirt, and you're paying anyone who's dumb enough to pay that kind of money for a T-shirt, and that's basically what it. But it's like, how many times are corporations going to go to bat for him? This is now on like the second or third corporation that he, frankly, I'm not defending corporations, but he's like second or third time he's screwed them. So at what point? Why do you even need the cachet of how much? Come on, it's just boring at this point with him. It really is, and it's like having maybe he should take a cue from his ex-wife. Seems to do a very good job of marketing something that she didn't invent. I mean, whatever you think about her, she's like those Skims. Everybody tells me are like the greatest thing since sliced bread. Maybe he should talk to Kylie Jenner, who is basically selling lipstick and marking it up through the roof. So I mean, and keeping herself. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I think he's enough. But the thing and we were talking about this many years ago, he made some sort of stupid comment about, I don't read books. All right, like being an idiot is a claim to fame. Now it's become, I've never read a book.
Right.
So we already know that who did the bedtime stories in the Kardashian West household, because clearly he wasn't even reading Goodnight Moon to his children. But yes, you have read books.
And then
you may not like to read.
Right. And then it makes me look at these deals and say, well, then you don't do good deals, because if you don't read.
You don't read.
Then did you read the contract that you signed? Any of them? I hate people trying to be austere for the sake of that. I hate that.
But it's also like he's bragging about being stupid. As if, look, I teach literature.
Wasn't his mother a professor?
His mother's professor. His father was educated. He went to college. That's why it's called college dropout.
Right.
He went to high school, and he didn't go to a shitty high school. Now, can people get out of school and be functional literates? Yes, they can. Not him. He's not a functional. He writes lyrics. We know he can read and write. And I have tons of students who don't like to read. I understand it. You don't like to read. I'm weird. I like to read.
I like to read.
But yeah, I like to read. But the thing is to say I have never. Come on, you're lying.
That's not even a flex. That's such a weird thing to me. It's
like you're bragging about being ignorant.
Why would you want to
Yeah. And for somebody who's trying to be like a role model and speak for people, and it's like, I never read. It's like, okay, great. That's great.
You know what the problem is? And it's true. I think we need to put a lot more emphasis on it. Everyone thinks they can be creative, have a creative career. And as a person who's had a lifelong creative career, hard as shit. It has ups and downs. You have times you can make a shitload of money. You have times where it's leaner as fuck. It's up and down. And this whole idea that everybody thinks you can just be creative, it just doesn't work. It's like education is the key for a lot of people to change their lives and their families' lives. So when I hear people like him say that kind of dumb shit, I'm like, what's the point? Who are you trying to, like, really,
Well,
what's the
who are
point of
you
that?
impressing? That's what I'm
You
saying.
supposedly have a school. Like, why would I send my kid to a school
There's a great
of
school.
a person who's like, yeah, you want to call yourself a genius? Knock yourself out. Call yourself whatever you want. But if you were a genius, you would have better deals.
Right.
And you wouldn't always be upset. And every company you get with wouldn't be an issue. I hate that it's always public and it's always an issue. There are ways to get
everything with him is everything with him is always public.
And the thing is, I think for him, he is a really talented person.
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with him thinking differently. I think different thinkers change the world. But I also think I get angry with him because he just says other shit to me that's like legit irresponsible. It's like, not everybody's you, sir. Not everybody has a mind where they're going to be able to really create something and turn around and make it into a lot of money. So I think you have to be really honest in how you present some of this. You know what I mean? Because you know it from, I think about all the young artists I've met, the ones who really had hopes and dreams, and see them get a shot, it doesn't work, and the shot is gone. Like, they don't have that again, and they've had to fall back and leave the industry and do something else. So the percentage of that is really, really low. And I just want him to get his business together. I just don't understand, like, no matter who you get into business with, it always ends up in something, and the common denominator just seems to be you.
Well,
be a different thinker. That's great. March to the beat of your own drum. That's great. But if you're going to get into business... Well, march to the beat of your
own drum and don't drag other people along with you. If you want to march to the beat of your own drum, then raise the money yourself, raise the capital yourself, and stop dragging other people with you. Because when you make these business decisions, you're not just impacting the president of Gap, you're impacting the people who are making the clothes.
Well, and he's naming people. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, why? You have a platform that's really too big to start just naming people and blaming them. It's like, what is your part in this? Like, what's your part? Because everybody always loves that. I'm getting really tired of one-sided fights in these public fights, right? Where everybody's like, this happened and that happened. Okay, and what was your part? Be honest. There's something you could have done better that maybe we didn't get here. Like, everybody has to come to the table with their truth in this shit. I don't like this new idea of the public fight, because it's like, I'll win this argument by turning the public. It's a really dangerous weapon. The only time I ever approved of that was Taylor Swift with Scooter Braun.
But that was a different sort of look. Mm-hmm. He's a man. He's not going to admit he's wrong.
And there you go.
Men can't even admit when they're driving the wrong way. I'm sorry. Not all men, but most men. All right. Now.
It's like fighting over the last orange in the break room at an orgy.
Someone who does read and talks about reading and does talk about education, but it didn't help her in this case, is Cardi B, who pled guilty to, what was it? 2 misdemeanors?
Yeah.
In a fight that I forgot even happened.
But you know what? I'm proud of this young lady.
Me too.
I'm proud of her standing up to say, I was living my life a really different way. And I'm trying to not really make excuses for that anymore. I'm just trying to clean it all up and be a good example for my kids. Gotta allow people space to grow. I'm with that for anybody and everybody. Even Kanye. Like, I feel like there has to be a grace for people.
Yeah, well, he's out loud. He's like in his mid-40s. He's in his mid-40s,
But we've lost such grace for people, and I found a grace in her, and I like what she's doing, giving money back to schools and the schools she's gone to. It's like, put your money where your mouth is. Like, these kids need something, and I'm really happy that she pled guilty in this case. Got that off. She's got to do her community service, which I'm pretty sure we know she'll do. Hopefully something with young people.
She'll do it, yeah.
Yeah, she'll do it. She'll absolutely
She's not a bad person. That's the thing. I mean, you may not like her music, and she may be like fly off every song, but she's fundamentally, it seems to me, a good person. She's fundamentally, and part of it is she has never come off to me with someone who is malicious,
Right.
unlike other women rappers that we can think of. Nicki Minaj.
No,
But-
listen. We do not need the Barbs attacking us on this show. Here's the
Oh.
thing about Nicki that I find interesting. I get where she had to be tough because she was surrounded, she was the dominant female around all of those men. So I absolutely appreciate that. Then there are other parts about her that I see that I get those inklings of things I don't really favor. But I'm not the biggest fan. I appreciate her. She's had songs that I like and verses, but she's never been my thing. But I kind of understand her energy a little bit, just dealing with what she dealt with in the industry.
Yes, but you don't have to be a fucking bitch. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to to weaponize your fan base to attack people. You can be tough, and you have to be. You
But
can
does
be
she
strategic.
do that, or do they do it on their own?
She's giving them the go ahead.
You think so?
And if they are doing it is her responsibility as the grown up in the room to say stop doing it. So I mean, Nicki Minaj, yeah, but she is. It's more than just being a woman in the business, because she wasn't like this in the beginning. All right, she was not.
Experiences in this industry change people.
No, we can't de-industry. She was.
I said experiences.
But she was someone who, when she came out, feminist magazines were covering her because she was a fresh voice, and she was very different, and she was speaking about supporting women, and she's become very mean-spirited. And when it goes in, everything is a fight with her. And I'm not saying she hasn't had a tough time. A woman in the music industry, a woman in any male dominated, but that's no excuse for threatening people and being nasty all the time. And that's where I draw the line with her. That's where I'm like,
I get that.
Yeah, I don't, it's like when it starts talking about violence in this society with the knuckleheads that follow people on social media, that's where I have to.
There's some things with her that I found a little head scratching. There's definitely been
she's too smart for this. She's too smart for this.
Yeah,
it's a little too calculated for me. It's a little. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna, Courtney. I'm gonna say something. I don't know if this is gonna bother you or not.
Mm-hmm.
Mermaids are not real, right?
Well,
wait a minute.
Let me
and
go
the Little
check.
Mermaid, let me check. Google that, could you? And the Little Mermaid, if I remember correctly, because I watched it when Lucian was little, is a cartoon about a made-up creature.
Mm-hmm.
Like so like there's no ethnicity with a mermaid because they just made
according
it
to some
up.
scientific man that I saw on television giving us specifics of the ocean, there's no sunlight and how deep she would have been. Her skin would absolutely be pale. And I'm watching this going, is this can't be actually happening.
No,
because
this is about Chloe. Is it Chloe Hale?
It's Halle Bailey. I'm like, this isn't actually happening, right? You're not sitting here. All the racism is not this. You guys have lost your mind. Do you realize this is one of the first Disney trailers? There have been over 1 million dislikes of the trailer. That doesn't happen with Disney. So it is absolutely. It's so amazing. It's just
what's interesting? I read this thing. This is the MAGA of the world. This is a post-Obama freak out because there was a Black Cinderella like 15 years ago, and I don't remember anybody saying boo. I mean, like, who cares? It's a made-up creature. The Smurfs are blue. Are there actually blue people running around? If they made the Smurfs yellow, I mean, who cares? It's a made-up creature. I just want to know: are they going to sing? Who's Ursula in this?
Melissa McCarthy.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's pretty perfect.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I need to know. Whoever is perfect, because Ursula's the whole movie, as we know. And who's Under the Sea guy?
If Sebastian. I remember correctly, who's singing the voice, I believe is David Digg.
Yes, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it's him.
All I mean, yeah, people have too much time in their hands.
People
Social
need-
media is a devil.
I feel like everybody's listening to all of that shit and they're letting their inner just most horrid thoughts. But you know what? Thank you for revealing yourselves, because I'd rather you be racist to my face. Don't smile in my face and be some other shit. Let me know who not to fuck with, because see, I don't really waste my time with racists. I just don't fuck with you.
All right.
But let me know who you are so I don't have to fuck with you.
Well, yeah, they're just,
Motherfuckers are fucking idiots. Ooh, we cursed a lot on this show.
Who is
this show is NC-17. There's been a lot of cursing.
No, I just, like I said, this has always been here, in we've always had racist stereotypes, which we are undoing in cartoons and pop culture. But it's just hilarious to me. It's a made up character.
Mm-hmm.
There are no new MAGA country. Hi, there are no mermaids in real life.
None.
That's it. None.
If you'd like to find one and interview one and ask them
no
about
unicorns,
the race.
no mermaids. The jury is out on Sasquatch.
No hobbits. I'm sorry.
No hobbits.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you could have purple people, green people, blue people in a Star Wars world. You just can't have brown people. I'm so sorry that you guys feel like in all these made up worlds, have to share it with something someone that doesn't look like you. I'm so sorry that your brain cannot fucking handle it, but get the fuck over it.
Well, it's just it's really unfortunate.
It's unfortunate,
because ultimately, who this is impacting is children, and that's an unfortunate thing. I can't think of a child in the world who's going to look at the Little Mermaid and she's black and go, "Oh, that's it. I'm not watching this."
Right.
I draw the line,
especially
if they've never seen the original. Which I love. I love.
But listen, everybody loves the Little Mermaid.
I love the Little Mermaid. I do. I used to watch. That's
listen,
the best part.
I have
about having
godkids.
A kid.
I've seen a bunch of those Disney movies. 750,000. Little kids. You can just put the shit on loop and they'll just watch it over and want to see it. You try to turn it off and it's like, can we watch that again? It was like, okay.
I know. Terrible. All right. Speaking of mermaids, Mariah Carey.
I love Mariah.
I know. That's why I'm letting you talk about it.
And you know what's really funny? When I worked at Columbia, I didn't really care about Mariah Carey. My friend Bobby loved Mariah Carey. My Columbia years in the 90s, I was deep, like there was Madonna and no one else except for Janet Jackson.
And she was not on Columbia.
And she was not on Columbia. But Butterfly is my favorite Mariah Carey album, and it's celebrating its 25th anniversary. I cannot believe that. Makes me feel old as fuck. It's like, fuck, how many years ago? Working at a label, and that album's 25 years old, and she just did a reissue of it and a new vinyl edition, and I'm just glad we're celebrating that work because it means a lot of things. I just remember she was really being fucked with during that. I'm not going to go into all of the shit that I kind of witnessed during that time at Columbia, but I was like, okay, y'all are really fucking with her, and I'm glad she persevered. It's also, the last album she did with Walter Astanafieff, because Walter was Team Tommy, right? So she's making this kind of a record, and that became a conflict. You know how sometimes in a divorce people go with the one that they feel like is going to suit them most.
Right.
So she parted with him. I just remember I was working in the video library at Columbia at that time. I used to mail out all of the videos to all of the mailing lists. So I dealt with, sending the list over to the studio and doing all of that kind of stuff. And which videos I was being told from, the executive suite, you can't send this video out and all this craziness. So I'm glad to see that the album is endured and it's being celebrated and it's brilliant. And I know that a lot of people love that record. I know a lot. But I listened to it again over the weekend from start to finish, and man, it holds up. It still sounds fucking great.
I'm happy for her. I'm tired of anniversaries of things.
Oh, Miss Thing, that's all. Everything's an anniversary now.
I'm just tired of it.
Everything.
I'm just tired.
That, and everything's a stat. They're like, this is the first plot. Still, everything is the first movie that's produced by this. The first. It's
always somebody's birthday. You know what I mean?
It's always an anniversary, and everybody's an icon after one EP and a half an album.
But yeah, I mean, fun fact, I don't think I've ever listened to a complete, no, I must have listened to a complete Mariah Carey
Had to
record or something.
complete sentence.
No, I have, but I can't, back then, I was ambivalent about her too.
Right.
Probably until Honey or this record.
Honey is Butterfly. That's on the
Okay,
Butterfly
so
album.
this
Right.
was the record.
Yeah.
Oh, right. This is the record where she became black, right?
Yes. Well, she was always black. She's a
right,
black
but she
woman.
became black.
This is the record where she took control. It was like, I'm really going to make the record.
Right.
Because, they always tried to steer her away from R&B.
Oh, I told you that story where they told me.
So this is where she's finally like on her black womanness. I'm making this record.
Yeah, no, but like I said, I'm just like with the anniversaries. To me, it's like just cheap. If I get one more, it's the 25th anniversary of the second single from the third. Like,
Right.
All right. I just finished watching like this really cool Icelandic show because I mean it was on a million years ago, but I just want to say that I don't know how those people are functional because the weather is bananas outside of Reykjavik, but you love I don't get Bjork. I liked the Sugar Cube, so I know that's
I love Bjork. But sometimes,
okay,
especially
say what you're. Oh, good, because I listened to it. I said, "Let me listen to it," and I listened to it, and I was like, "Oh, sweet Jesus, what has happened to Courtney? What has happened to him?"
People who've hung out with her and partied with her, like she's really, really fun. These last few records have been above my pay grade, I think.
Okay, good. I feel so much
And this time
better.
she described this one coming, saying it was like an adult dance party for the living room. Great. I'm thinking, and Bjork has given us beats with like
I thought it's Nelly Hooper again,
I thought she's going to give me moments. Songs are coming.
Good.
I'm just kind of like,
good.
I don't understand what's happening.
Oh,
and
good.
why is this another record that sounds like, it sounds like butts clacking in space.
No,
I don't know what's happening.
It sounds like you started in the middle of the record and then it started going backwards.
It's just like...
No, I felt bad because I felt we're going to get on the show and you're going to go on and on about the brilliance of this record.
No, mistake. No. And listen, and it probably is, all of the critics love it. But she's all like, ocean.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on.
I was like, what's happening?
What's happening? Yeah. Okay, good.
I thought I was going to get Bjork. They was giving me Shake My Ass. I'm like, Bjork? Let me just tell you something, honey. I just went through an almost 3-year pandemic. Then when I decided it's going to be a good, fun, slutty summer, monkeypox showed up in New York. The last thing I need is the kind of music that makes me feel like I have to pull out a thesaurus and think. Give me a beat.
No. She used to live around the corner here in Fort Greene, rumor has it. Her and Matthew Barney. Yeah.
They did live in Brooklyn. They did live in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, bless her heart. And she's just like one of those people you can't admit that you don't really get or like. It's like, I mean, I like some of her stuff, but I can't take more than like 4 songs. And it's so cool to go like, I remember interviewing this rapper once and I'm not going to, but he was like, what are you listening to? He's like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm listening to Bjork and I'm thinking, no, you are not. You are not listening to Bjork. You're not. I mean, the Nelly Hooper record, yes, but anything past that, you're not listening to her because she's making records underwater with aquariums and you're not listening to her. But that's cute that you want to tell me you think I'm going to be impressed that you're listening to Bjork, and I know goddamn well.
And I love her. And there are times listen, there are albums that I absolutely love. Homogenic was great.
Yes.
I really, there's just albums that I love by her. I used to love the one that I love Volta. I thought Volta was great. I love Debut. I love her first album. Great records. And then there are other ones where I'm sitting there going,
I don't get it. I
don't understand what's happening. It's like,
no. Right.
What's going on?
I really do feel a lot better because I was terrified that you were going to give like a TED talk, and I listened to it for 15 seconds and I went, I had a concussion 3 weeks ago and I think it's kicking back in again. You're like,
I can't do this.
I can't do this. I can't. I have a concussion. I can't. All right. Okay, I have to make a confession. Oh my God, I can't even believe this when we talk about what we're listening to.
Mm-hmm.
This is really unbelievably embarrassing.
Okay.
It is. For like 20 years, I have sworn and been convinced that I listened to the Donnie record. I was convinced that I had listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put it on the other day. I said, I need to, I've never heard this before. Or maybe I have, and I think I saw him opening up for somebody somewhere.
Well, the thing is, it was a moment because remember, it first came out independently and it was a moment.
Right.
And it went to Motown and they kind of did a re-release of it.
Right.
And it was a big record at the time, but it was also like this indie cool record.
It was
you had to listen, you were living in Brooklyn at that time, and that whole Fort Greene area, you absolutely heard that record because that was that moment where it was
it was definitely that moment. It was Omar and him.
But you don't remember the songs, right? Because you haven't listened.
You haven't.
But that's the thing about some of these records that you remember are really good, but you haven't played them in a long time.
No.
Then all of a sudden,
and
you pull it out, and it's like, oh shit, this really was.
And
good.
also, it does. A lot of those records from that time period sound very dated. This does not.
No,
this does not. A lot of that kind of like, not that he's that camp, but that kind of acid house, acid groove shit sounds very dated. So.
It was a soul record, and he sounded
No,
great.
It totally was. It was just in that camp. I mean, when we talked to Morris Bernstein about it, I mean, this is a great thing they put out. And I started listening to the new Lewis Taylor record. He hasn't put out.
Do you like it?
I like it. You know what? I like it enough. I don't love it, but he is cursed with putting out 2.5 of some of the best music of, just fantastic. Those first 2 Lewis Taylor records are just must-haves. And the Lost album is a really good record. I mean, he's definitely a prog rock guy at heart, but I like it. I mean, I'm not mad at it. It's nice to know that there's a Lewis Taylor record out. That makes me kind of happy. Right. Uh-oh, he's putting on the glasses. Something must have happened. Breaking news?
No. Just so I can read my little list here. Okay. I can't see it. Okay, the record you all need to be listening to right now, artist that you did not know you needed in your life right now, is Danielle Ponder. Her album is called Some of Us Are Brave. Danielle Ponder she's from New York, Rochester, working in the public defender's office in Rochester. That was her day job, working on music, left that job, and she's put out her debut album. Her voice it's amazing. It is tonal. It is husky. It is rich. She's a great songwriter. And this album is a mix of R&B, soul, trip hop. It's beautifully done.
All right, I'm going to check it out.
Beautifully sang with a really unique individual voice, the type of voice that I think you'll like. It's got grit. She's one of those women.
Okay.
You hear that voice, and this is not some light, wispy voice.
Like a Leela James kind of voice?
That in that energy where it's like, it's rich and it just, that husk and then
not the little girl whispery voice.
No. And also, I'm listening to Dixon's album, 004 Daisy. Dixon, I believe, is the producer who did Black Parade with Beyonce, and he's got this new album that came out that is pretty amazing. Like, the kids are coming with these great R&B soul albums that are really giving moments. And I don't know if you've heard of this artist, Eliza. She's got a new album called A Sky Without Stars. It's really, really good. And she was out years ago and she's UK based. She came out originally as an artist named Eliza Doolittle. And she had, you remember her?
Yes,
and she had 2 albums on a major. Had the issue of putting albums out on majors where,
wasn't she a 4 AD artist? Wasn't she like a smaller camp? Yeah.
And she's really talented and, got caught up in the thing of, like we've always talked about, being a woman sometimes at the major where we want you to sing this. This is your single and those things, and fighting for your creative control. So this is her first, I believe her album as Eliza and as an independent, and her first, I believe, as a real independent artist called A Sky Without Stars. And it's really good.
Great.
Really, really, really,
That's
really
good. Good.
And Rena's album came out. Rena's album is really good.
Oh, yeah. I like her a lot. I mean, this one is not getting the raves the first one got, but I still like it a lot. Good. I'm very excited. That's cool. All right. Courtney, take us out.
Take me home. Take me home. Thank you, Cher. Cher is going to be here next week as our special guest in our minds.
In our minds.
Next week we'll be on the globe.
She's always
our best friend. She's in our minds. She's our best friend. And Milan, I know you're listening. Please send tickets. And you know, guys know what to do. You listen to us every week on the Pantheon Podcast Network. We're on their main page. You love us. They love us. Come on in. There's over 70 music shows. I mean, I should say now at this point, there's over 80 music shows. Every kind of music genre, we're there. It's fierce. We're also on the Pantheon Podcast Network's YouTube page. So you can listen to us on YouTube there. And, you know, you guys have been listening. Thank you for the listens at Apple and Spotify and iHeart and Deezer, Stitcher, and I mean, I Google and Amazon.
Sneezy and grumpy and
all
dopey.
Of it. You know, thank you guys who tune in at Twitch. When we're on Twitch I'm at Twitch TV.
You just said Twitcher. You just said Twitcher.
You know, Miss Thing is there's so much shit. I can't remember them all.
I know.
And you communicate with us. You guys are funny on our Facebook. I'm telling you,
you
guys
are
really, really funny. You guys are really motherfucking funny. I'm going to let you finish all one word. I'm going to let you finish NY on IG. Finish Shima, we still fucking hate that name on Twitter, who's still trying to be like, yes, Elon Musk, you are going to buy us because you told us you had $44 billion in cash. It's really fierce how they are not letting that go. They're like, you told us you had $44 billion in cash and we want it. So follow us there if you want to discuss that more. And remember, share the show, leave a rating, tell a friend, write a review. Tell your cousin, bake a cake, send a cake. We love cake, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Venture X from Capital One is the travel card for people always asking,
Where next?
You earn 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights booked through Capital One Travel, and 2x miles on everything else you buy with Venture X. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package, with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's FantasyPoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.